Hello, I'm Wajahat Ahmed. I'm a visiting faculty at OP Jindal Global University. I'm going to talk about the module Factors Leading to Migration. So first let's look at the intended learning outcomes of the module, which are students will get an overview of the theories of migration, which contribute to factors that lead to migration of people. A detailed analysis will help students to know the factors that lead to migration. From the previous chapter, you will be able to get an overview, different form of migration that takes place within and outside the country. Each form gives in-depth reasons as to why migration takes place. Migration occurs due to several factors which influence people to migrate that can be explained under three broad headings: economic, socio-cultural, and other factors. The primary motivating factors, both in rural and urban, within and outside the country, is the economic reasons. In developing countries like India, issues like unemployment, underemployment, low agricultural income, etc. are some of the basic factors pushing the migrants towards developed areas for better opportunities. Poverty plays an important role in pressurizing people to move out from the traditional place of work to progressive areas, mostly ending up getting into unskilled work which are unsuited. With globalization taking the center stage, opportunities have also increased, but exploitation is also higher. Migrant people are misguided with false hopes and expectations before they are pulled in for work, in which case poor, marginalized migrant groups are the victims who face challenges ahead. The Second National Commission of Labour, which submitted its report to the Government of India, pointed out the challenges faced by the workers working in the plantation industry, that the workforce engaged in the industry is also deeply concerned about the impact of globalization and mechanization on the industry. They are concerned about the possibility of loss of employment and the means available for migration to other avenues of employment. Repeated droughts and famines had ravaged the villages in many areas and reduced people to poverty and dearth of avenues of gainful employment. It resulted in the migration of population from their traditional homes. Now let's have a look at various migration theories. So what are the migration theories there? There are a number of reasons why people migrate from one place to another. Generally, there are many factors that give opportunity for people to opt out from the home state to another due to reasons like unemployment, search for new job, better opportunities, urbanization, and its outcomes. Globalization that attracts workers from other countries to come over, etc. It's good to begin to understand the factors through theoretical frameworks, which has been accepted by many. There are a number of theories to explain the reasons for migration. We will look at some important theories in order to get an overview. Critical analysis of the factors that lead to migration. From the above theoretical framework, we came across different modules which pointed out a number of reasons that lead to migration. However, it's important to discuss specific factors that lead to migration in detail. The following points give an overview of each of the factors that contribute to migration at various levels. In 2013, the four most populous countries worldwide were China with a population of 1.41 billion, India with a population of 1.25 billion, the United States with a population of 320 million, and in Indonesia the population of 250 million, and the total number of international migrants worldwide is 231.5 million, which itself can make a country on its own, ranking 5th in the world. More than 3.2% of the world's 7.2 billion people were international migrants in the year 2013, as compared to 2.9% of 154.2 million of the then world population of 5.3 billion in 1990. In India, as per census 2001, about 307 million people have been reported as migrants by place of birth. Out of them, about 259 million, 84.2% of them migrated from one part of the state to another. That's from one village or town to another village or town. 42 million, that is 2%, from outside the country. Out of these migrants, by last residents, 268 million, which is 85%, have been intra-state migrants. Those who migrated from one state to another, 41 million, were interstate migrants, and 5.1 million, which is 1.6%, migrated from outside the country. Below table gives a glimpse of the reasons for migration in India from the 2001 census data, which has listed a number of indicators. From the table, we can understand that marriage being a common factor, reason of work and employment is comparatively higher. Socio-political factors. Socio-political factors can include ethnic, religious, racial, and cultural persecution on a particular group or community, which forces them to move out for safety. Warfare and internal disturbances are also a major push factor. There are a number of examples wherein citizens moved as asylum seekers outside of their borders. For example, Sri Lankan Tamils moved to India during the Sri Lankan Civil War, and most of them settled in camps in Tamil Nadu for a number of years now. The politicization of religious and ethnic identities, which also includes racism and racial discrimination, has caused significant levels of conflict within states, and victims of such violence have been moved out. For example, in India, two instances can be the best examples. The 2008 Kandhamal violence and 2013 Muzaffarnagar riots in Uttar Pradesh, considered as worst violence in recent history, wherein 100,000 members in the riot affected regions were moved out in both cases as internally displaced persons. Often, governments lack the ability to respond to social instability. The future level of migration on this may be more depending upon the longevity and severity of such conflict that could arise. Individuals migrating due to social or political conditions are humanitarian migrants and will all have an impact upon the living conditions and protecting the rights of the migrants. Now let's look at the economic factors. One of the most important economic factors relating to migration is concerning labor issues, which is often linked with the unemployment situation. If economic conditions are not favorable and appear to be at risk, probably leaves individuals to migrate to better place for economic development and survival. Often we can see people moving from rural to urban areas while remaining within the confines of their state borders. We can also see immigrants from developing and underdeveloped countries have moved abroad for merger wages in order to take care of their families. Government of India in its report in 2013 stated 40% of migration takes place between developing countries. Below table gives us an overview of the immigrants from India moving out for labor, whereas people are moving into the Arab countries over the years. Economic migrants are drawn towards international migration because of the prospect of higher wages, better employment opportunities, and often a desire to escape the domestic, social, and political situation of the home country. These migrants are most likely to come from middle-income countries where the population is becoming increasingly well-educated. There's also increase in highly skilled individuals from developing countries migrating to developed countries. Generally, economic forces motivate individuals to move to other states and countries where employment prospects are better before returning to their country of origin. Furthermore, issues relating to brain drain and problems of exploitation still remain a concern. Now let's look at the ecological factors behind migration. Climate disruption exacerbates other forces. The issue of climate change is arguably the most serious. Since the recent past, people face enormous problems due to failure in agriculture, are forced to find alternative forms of employment as the land is no longer capable of producing or sustaining goods. The impact of climate change is most likely to become more apparent in the coming years. Climate change has an impact upon water resources, agriculture, food security, etc., which the states need to adequately address them. People who are severely affected by the changing ecological conditions choose to migrate from their home state in search of more favorable environmental conditions within and outside the country. Now let's look at globalization and regional disparities, which are responsible for migration. Due to uneven development within a country through regional disparities and challenges faced by the developing and the underdeveloped countries has exerted significant pressure on people, pushing them to move out. Most of them have already been discussed in point B, the issue of brain drain with relatively skilled workers migrating to developed economies in order to get better opportunities and higher wages which they cannot get at the home state. On the other hand, low-skilled or even unskilled workers are also moving to other states due to economic compulsions, and they are attracted to job opportunities from the developed countries. Even though there has been a number of human rights violations. Both developed and developing countries have started multinational projects, infrastructure developments, etc., push people to move out of their hometowns for the sake of development, and these people are moved to places where they need to find new jobs for survival, and they are commonly known as internally displaced persons. Let's summarize now. We learned from the module that there is a paramount increase in the levels of intolerance, economic disparities within and outside the country, as well as associated impacts such as discrimination, regional disparity, etc., have become key factors that drive people to move from one place to another. The module has looked at the major factors that influence migrant movements, which are similar in most parts of the world. It must be noted that migration can never be eliminated or even fully controlled. In fact, with rising globalization or deepening globalization, migratory patterns are increasing day by day. Thank you very much.